Evening, friends and industry members. A very warm welcome from GESIA IT Association. And today we are very honored to have Dr. Bhuvan from Florida. He is going to talk about a very interesting topic on uh, data and digital analysis. This is going to be one of the future, I would say, not the future, but I would say it's the current trending and it is going to be used in a very long run when we talk about growth, strategy, and development. And so, data is definitely very important. And data analysis and strategies for analysis is the key success for any corporate today. So, take this more forward. I will like to invite our chairman who will be making a welcoming remarks on behalf of ASIA. And Malik ji, over to you for this interesting seminar and webinar.
Well, thank you so much, Anupamji. And uh, hello. I hope you're able to hear me okay.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah, great. So thank you so much, Anupamji, and good evening, everyone, and good morning there, Professor Bhuvan Unhelkar, who is going to speak with us today from Florida, United States. Briefly talking about GESIA, we are an ICT association having membership of businesses and industries which are IT, information technology, software, electronics, and related services as well. We have more than 500 plus members across the state of Gujarat. And of course, we have a lot of associations and a lot of partnerships that we have pan-India with several leading bodies like NASSCOM and CII and so on. So we do a lot of initiatives and a lot of drives that we have for the better of our ecosystem, industry, academia, and ecosystem at large, like I said. This today's session is one more effort in that direction, which can help our industries, our academia, our professionals to be able to really understand the current needs, the trends, and how we are leading in current times and what difference it has made for all of us. I'll briefly talk about that in a minute. But coming back to what I was saying is GESIA, we are soon also going to have what we call as digital management conclave. And that's going to happen on 12th of September. So be ready for that one as well. And we'll soon send you and we'll have more information on that, reaching out to you. Let's be prepared for that. As we are headed towards that, today's subject is therefore even more important in current times. Talking about business analysis, a role of business analyst, we traditionally have thought as it brings the service provider of software services or products and so on, and the business communities together, and several times the role is also to identify what is actually needed by the client or business organization versus what is in the wish list, right? And how do we bridge that gap? And it has become a full-fledged profession in my understanding. And I was talking to Professor Unhelkar before we started this session, that the role is now actually adding significant value to the organization by providing and enhancing capabilities that enable organization to achieve its goals and objectives. Talking about COVID-19 crisis, you know what? We all know it is reshaping businesses and livelihoods, and seasoned and new business analysts alike have an unparalleled opportunity to put their analytical skills to great use. And you know what? These days, we have so much of data that is being generated, right? How many of us really think to be able to really, are we ready to be able to even use it? Businesses have come to that realization to have now more business, more data-driven approach. And you know what? We all know what current times have taught us, right? Uncertainty, for example. And wealth was generated until now by perfecting the known things. And what we are now seeing, it is about seizing the unknown, right? So how else can be done? I mean, except for understanding data better, therefore the information better and making our organizations more data driven. And therefore the role of business analysis and business analyst has become even more important, where business analysts in current times would actually assume a role of product ownership, or even help businesses to redefine themselves, or to identify more business streams or possible business partnerships going beyond just within the organization, in terms of identifying what is really required to be able to redefine the business itself possibly. All right. So of course, on this we will have a talk with us and enrich us by great knowledge and experience. We have Dr. Bhuvan Unhelkar, who will be talking with us today on that. A brief introduction of his is he is an accomplished IT professional, senior professor of information technology at University of South Florida, and so today he's joining with us. From all the way from South Florida, and thanks to these digital technologies that we are able to do so. And we are honored to have you, sir, with us today. He's also founding consultant at Method Science. His expertise and forte is in business analysis and requirements modeling. He's a winner of Computer World Object Developer Award, several accolades and awards. He's having doctorate in the area of object orientation from the University of Technology, Sydney. He's fellow of Australian Computer Society, IEEE senior member, professional Scrum Master, and a lot of things, including a discovery volunteer at NSW Parks and Wildlife. So such a great personality, and I'm sure we will be very, we will gain a lot from his talk with us today. And before we started this session, he just said one thing: I'm so happy and so delighted that I have gotten this opportunity to give back to India. So with that note, Professor Unhelkar, thank you so much for being with us today. It's our honor. And I'll also like to mention Mr. Rajat Joshi, who has helped us actually putting us together along with our team at GESIA. So I thank my team as well to be able to make this happen. And without wasting any more time, I'll now hand over to Professor Bhuvan Unhelkar. Sir, floor is all yours. We'll be very happy to hear you and take us through this interesting experience of yours and share your insights with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Molinji, for a very nice welcome. And I welcome Dr. Bhuvan for his session. To take it forward, we will have the session till about 6:15, and from 6:15 to 6:30, we'll take the questions. So over to you, Dr. Bhuvan.
Thank you. So to start with, namaste to all my friends in India. And thank you, Maulik Bhai, for a wonderful introduction. Anupam Bhai for coordinating. And of course, Ajay Joshi for putting me in touch with all of you. So I absolutely say it from my heart that it's a pleasure to now actually through electronic technology to come back to India. I am actually brought up in Gujarat. I am from Vadodara, and Gujarati is my mother tongue. I can speak it much better than all other languages. So it's a pleasure to be doing this with all of you. I will start by sharing my screen. I hope you can all see it, and if there are any issues, feel free to let me know. I'm going to minimize this so that you can see the screen clearly. And if there are any issues, please don't hesitate to interfere and let me know. So this is the title given to me, Adding Value to Customer Through Business Analysis. And you can see my beautiful office, or rather my campus, the bottom right. This is the message that had gone out to our membership, and I thought I will just put the message out here to highlight how I have made sure I am staying on track with the description of this presentation. So business analysis is a profession that is really plugging the gap between problem and solution. That's how it started. And because so many of our members have IT background, information systems, IS background, they know that programming is not the key activity of information systems. It is actually solving the business problems. And it has become a full-fledged profession with certification, with acknowledgement in the industry and so on, because it does a lot more than just plugging the gap. It is actually there to add value to the decision-making process. And today's talk is trying to take that framework, that profession further by focusing on how data has changed everything for us and how data can be put to good use. Maulik Bhai in the introduction mentioned about COVID-19. It is impossible to talk about anything without mentioning COVID-19. And everything that we are getting, all the statistics, the number of people infected, the number of recoveries in India and globally is based on one keyword. And that's what I have put in capital on the bottom right, data. So let's have a look at it. Uh, just in case you missed my introduction, I thought I'll put it up anyway. But I also want to highlight the two associations that I have underlined. One is I'm a life member of Computer Society of India, and I'm also a life member of Baroda Management Association, and very proud of both of those memberships. And I do a lot of writing. I'm working on my 25th book right now, titled Artificial Intelligence and Business Optimization. And out of my 8 PhDs, one is from India, Dr. Bharti Trivedi from Vadodara. So this is what I want to speak about today, share with you business analysis as a profession and how it has evolved, and then how the word data has been put between business and analysis. And then I will also mention the important cybersecurity analysis, which is evolving as a sub-discipline within business analysis. So who is a business analyst? What is a business analyst? And the word that comes to mind to describe this particular role, just as we have got a manager, a developer, a programmer, a tester, a customer service officer, we also have business analyst. It is far more popular in Australia, New Zealand, America, UK than in India, because in India we prefer to do things directly. If I have to drive from Vadodara to Ahmedabad, I will just drive, not necessarily strategize. If I have to play cricket, I'll pick up a bat and start hitting the ball. But in Australia, I find that when my son was taught cricket for the first time, it was on a whiteboard with field positions and all those descriptions, rather than how I learned cricket, which is to just pick up a bat and hit the ball. So business analyst is that strategic role that is in between the business and the solution. And because almost all solutions are IT based, it started off as um, a requirements modeling activity between what the business wanted and what the IT solution provider provided, which is programming. But then the profession evolved because we realized that we need to understand who the stakeholders are, how to put that RACI metrics, which is responsibility, accountability, consulted, and informed metrics. And then we aligned and designed and delivered solutions. So all of this became a profession in its own right. And the flagship institute right now is IIBA, International Institute of Business Analysis, which holds the framework. And the framework is put together in what I have put up there, BABOK, or Business Analysis Body of Knowledge, and it has reached version 3.0. And as I said, in the bottom right, our job as business analysts is to add value, not just to write requirements, but to see if we can help in business automation or business optimization or risk reduction or developing a cybersecurity strategy. So I told you how you and I, those of us who are grown-ups, elderly, pick up a bat and start batting. But the next generation of developers are also learning the reasons why they are developing a solution. So this is called BACCM. It's a complete model, but it has 6 keywords. And those 6 keywords have been around for a long time in the BA community. The first keyword is what are the needs, then which those needs are for which stakeholders. Those needs will require certain changes. The changes will happen because of the solutions that are there to provide for the needs. We don't put a solution just like that. There has to be a business context. If you look at a SAP implementation or a PeopleSoft implementation, it's different for a production company than, say, a insurance company. So the context that is provided for the solution also changes, and the overall purpose is to add value to the business. So these 6 keywords have been around, and business analysts have been working in these 6 keywords. But now I have put a new word, data. Not that data did not exist, but today everything is happening around data. So the profession has evolved further to start looking at data. The job of a business analyst is also highly ranked, and that is independent of the keyword data. And on the top right, I have put the Purdue University course, which is the entire program on business analysis. And then, of course, we in my university, University of South Florida, we have got 3 campuses, Sarasota, Tampa, and St. Pete. And we are promoting critical thinking and problem solving, which comes very, very close. In fact, it is overlapping business analysis. So now I mentioned the word data so many times, and the key question you will have is, what is data? What is a data-driven organization? And I got this as one of my favorite slides because I have done a lot of work in big data. And the important question to ask is, how big is big data? And I wish I could give a simple answer. I can always say 1 petabyte is big, or half a petabyte, 500 terabytes is big. But then there are banks and insurance companies that are finding challenging to analyze even 5 terabyte of data, let alone 500. And to me, big is a relative word. And here I have given example of what was a big data some time back. This is a IBM big data being loaded on a truck with 4 or 5 or 6 very strong people pushing it on the truck. How big is this? Well, in 1956, this was 5 megabyte, not gigabyte, just megabyte. So from mega to giga to tera to petabytes, we have moved in terms of the volume of data. What is challenging is how good we are in processing that data so that we can add value to our business. That is the keyword. So big data is challenging to make sense of. It requires techniques and tools. It cannot be done by just person. And the idea is to solve business problems so that the value provided by the business to its customer has improved. Typically, there are 4 aspects of data. So as we do business analysis, we are exploring data in 4+1, I'm going to mention the fifth one. In fact, I have mentioned, but the four are volume, how big is the data, velocity, how fast it is coming through. You and I are all carrying smartphones, which are generating data. We carry IoT devices, we carry a Fitbit to monitor our health, and it's producing data with some velocity. Then we no longer are limited to rows and columns. If you look at any stock market analysis, and I used to work in Dow Jones for almost 6, 7 years in the 1990s in Sydney, Australia. And we used to have a ticker coming in, which was a well-defined row and column data. Now, if you look at the analysis happening by Dow Jones or Reuters or Bloomberg, it's based on 200 blogs or reports written by variety of thinkers and authors. So we are looking at a variety of data which is unstructured, which can also be audio and video. And then veracity, which is how much is the quality of this data. So that's the challenge that business analysis faces when it tries to analyze data. And then the last word over down there is value. When I am working as a business analyst and I'm given a large amount of database, and I am asked, do something with it. The question I will ask is, for whom and what is it that they are going to get? So if I have a production process, if I'm manufacturing televisions, well, or cloths in Ahmedabad, my cloth making factory has a process. And I have to ask the question, I've got data on how many t-shirts or how many pants were manufactured by my organization in the last 3 years. That data is not enough. My job is to see, if I analyze this, what is my business going to get? Will I reduce 10% errors in production mistakes? Will I reduce 7% inventory that I'm holding? Or will I be more compliant with the government requirements? So all these are important questions that a business analyst will be asking. And they will all be related to data. So when I talk about a data-driven organization, I am saying the business processes that we have, the processes of opening an account in a bank, the process of admitting a patient in a hospital, which is so crucial. Or right now, whatever process we are following in handling the pandemic, and I mean, India has been very, very creative, irrespective of the numbers, in handling this pandemic. So, in my place where I am right now, we did not lock down as early as India did, and you can see the results. So I'm arguing for data to be analyzed in such a way that it starts providing value, that it starts providing sufficient information at the right time, at the right place, and to the right person, so they can take decisions that will add value, reduce risk, save lives in case of corona. And that is business data analytics. So this is actually a sub-discipline within IIBA, and this screenshot is from the IIBA website, and it is talking about business data analytics as a sub-division that is becoming very popular within IIBA. By the way, the flagship certification of IIBA is called CBAP, Certified Business Analyst Professional. And one of my friends in Sydney was telling me that it is now becoming as difficult and as challenging and as valuable as a certified accountant. So I am glad that I finished my certification of CBAP in 7, 8 years ago. So then the question is, we were doing business analysis. How is data analytics different and where do they meet? So this is again straight from IIBA, acknowledging that. But business analysis, the focus is on enabling change by defining needs, whereas in data, it is gleaning insights from the data. So on one hand, we define the needs. On other hand, we identify the data that will help us satisfy those needs. Then the relationship, provide the context for the research. This is data research, set the scope, help in collecting data, communicate the results. And here we do the standard data analytics, the sorting and the processing and the reporting and so on. Then there are architectural concerns and enterprise architecture. And some of you who are in IT are aware of frameworks like TOGAF, the Open Group Architecture Framework, and Zachman. In fact, Zachman is equally popular. And then there are some frameworks I have extended and worked on as well, which is what business analysis will look at. And Maulik Bhai mentioned about governance. So there are challenges in governance, risk and compliance, GRC, which also is a part of having a well-defined architecture. In data, it's primarily data information and technology architecture as against the full enterprise. And then, of course, requirements focus. So this is understanding business data analytics. The job is to iterate multiple times, and here the keyword is agile, in order to figure out where and how we are going to add value to the requirements, where and how we are going to add value to optimizing a business process, reducing cost, increasing market share, and reducing risks, which is actually part of compliance, GRC. So what do we do? This is the path of data. First observations, then recording, storage, then its analysis, then creating correlations between wide set of data, and then providing intelligence, which are then used for decision making. So let's take Corona example. Data is collected here in Johns Hopkins University, globally provided data, which is then analyzed to figure out 7-day rolling average, today's statistics, number of tests, number of recoveries, number of deaths, and so on. Correlation. Today, we have data from various sources. I provided you with the characteristics of data, in which I mentioned variety. So we have got variety coming from vast sources. There are analysis done to say that coronavirus existed in Wuhan province in July, August last year, based on photographs, satellite imagery of cars that were parked in that same car park last year, that is 2019, and this year in that time period, June, July, August. So what I'm saying is, keyword is correlation. In establishing a correlation between the number of cars parked and the disease, we are going beyond the normal analytics, data analytics, where we are saying, okay, I've got vast amount of data and I will analyze it to produce a result. Here we are going beyond a single dimensional data. And same we are doing in India in so many ways. We are an agricultural country, and our farmers depend on rain. And we have to establish a correlation between market produce, supply chain, gas prices, petrol prices, sorry, and rain. These are separate databases. Same with education policy. Right now, I've been reading with immense interest education policy. And there are some correlation of education with farming, with pandemics like this, or with crime. Education and crime have a very fascinating and interesting correlation that business analysts are keen to establish. Going down to how to go about it, when we think data, we have to think of these four things. Handset, which is not just the smartphone, but IoTs and sensors and even drones right now. Dataset, where they are stored on the cloud, how they will be analyzed, and so on. Toolset, which includes ERP solutions, SAP and BAN and PeopleSoft, and other tools developed using R and Python and RapidMiner and so on. And then mindset, which is Can we change the way we are thinking in order to take better decisions, where we include training, education, psychosocial dimensions? And then, of course, the change, the need, the solution, stakeholder, value, and context are described uh, in the context of data. Um, Now I'm going to take you very quickly. So I've got about 10 to 15 minutes left to speak, and then we'll move to Q&A. But I'm going to take you through 6+1 chapters of BABOK, which is Business Analysis Body of Knowledge. And the chapters are all known. In fact, there are totally 9 chapters. First 2 are introductory, 3 to 8 are the knowledge areas, and ninth is the generic competencies. But each of these are changing when we do business data analysis. And so chapter 3 is talking about business analysis, planning and monitoring as a knowledge area. So, you identify who the stakeholders are, how will you put governance in place or deal with people who are placing governance in place. Also, this governance is governance of the project to enhance the capabilities or provide the solutions. And then how are we going to prove to our business that the solution that we are bringing in has benefited the business, has actually reduced 10% inventory or increased 7% market share or reduced 12% errors. So those are our performance improvement measures. Uh, Here in business analysis, planning and monitoring, we are talking about how we are going to improve the business analysis itself when it is implemented. And you can see where and how data is going to fit in. In elicitation and collaboration, we will conduct elicitation using interview techniques, but we are going to ask questions during those interviews that deal with how business problems can be solved or how accuracy of those solutions can be improved with the help of data. Then we communicate that information not as a report, not as a final presentation, but with a very short feedback cycle in an iterative manner. And then, of course, collaborate with the stakeholders. None of these are rocket science. These are common disciplines, but they are very, very important when it comes to data driven business analysis. Here in managing the requirements, the keyword again that comes in my practice when I used to practice is agile. And I've done a fair bit of work in agile methods, and the requirement management is also actually done in a agile manner or in a composite agile manner in my work. So requirements are never one off. You as a business person cannot tell IT, this is what I want. You go ahead and develop the solution and come back to me in 3 months or 6 months. Even for a simple website or a mobile app to run on iPhone or Android, you need iterative requirements. You need to assess the changes and you need to approve those requirements again dynamically in a iterative incremental manner. You undertake a fair bit of strategic approach, and that requires looking in time. uh, no one looks 5 years from now, but I still encourage my clients, or I used to, and now my MBA students, to try and look at a 5 year life cycle if you can. But 1, 2, and 3 is the most standard way of looking at it. Assess the risk, and then every 3 months, revise your 3 year cycle, 1, 2, and 3 year cycle, and then define the change strategy, which is also a ongoing process in data driven businesses. Then you, sorry, apologies. Then you define you undertake analysis of the requirements and you create your design definition. A business analyst is not a programmer, although a good programmer will use these skills, these competencies of a business analyst. But in especially in large organizations or in very complex projects, the business analyst is the product owner in a Scrum project, more or less, whereas the developer is a completely different role. So here, business analyst will create use cases or activity diagrams or business domain model or class diagrams, because now the business analysis role is coming down to modeling requirements and providing design definition, but they don't provide the solution. When the solution is provided, the role of a business analyst is to verify and validate that the solution complies with the requirements, and of course to help in comparing various solutions and providing a carefully thought risk based recommendation on even whether we are going to buy from outside as a ready made ERP solution or we are going to develop it in house. Evaluate the solution based on how that solution can make use of data, and of course how eventually it will add value to the business. So those are the six knowledge areas, and then there are these generic or underlying competencies: analytical thinking and problem solving. I mentioned critical thinking earlier, um, which is something that we teach to all our students across all disciplines. How adaptable it is, how ethical it is. I'm right now working on a paper that deals with big data and ethics. If I got a terabyte of data, which is providing me with an answer without explaining what the answer is, what the reason is, then I am dealing with ethical challenges. For example, if a certain area in Ahmedabad has had riots in the past, then if I simply hand over the analysis to a data-driven solution, it will tend to indicate that the next riot is going to happen there. And the same challenge with predicting the pandemic, the coronavirus. So there are ethical issues, there are legal issues, there are moral issues that are actually based on human intelligence rather than artificial intelligence. And therefore, behavioral characteristics and ethics become important. Business knowledge you definitely need, which is the knowledge of that particular domain. Communication skills, written skills, verbal skills, and also demeanor, that is personality skills, interaction with agile, and then lots of tools and technologies with BA work. Tools like Star UMLs, tools like Visio have been used in documenting requirements. So I talked all about business data analysis. There is another subdivision, and that actually, so this is IIB. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I have put a screenshot of this, and you can ask me some questions around it. But cyber security in itself is a big domain. You can start by securing your networks. You can start by looking at the processes within the organization, but then you can move into user behavior, or you can move into password encryption, or you can move into ethical hacking and try and test your system by trying to hack it yourself. This is documenting the requirements, understanding the organization, comparing the risk or prioritizing the risk, and then securing the layers and data security and so on, user access control. So this is just to keep you informed that whenever you are dealing with data at a high level, large scale, you're also required to deal with cybersecurity. So these are just some examples. Data security at rest, which is basically using technology control, data loss prevention, and so on. Data security in transit, I've got two slides. One is, of course, encryption and keys, and understanding the difference between various types of encryption. Again, a business analyst does not do encryption. The role, that is, the person may be playing two roles, but a business analyst is fully aware of what is encryption and what level of encryption is required. Very simple example is you and I have keyed HTTP so many times. And there are times when we have keyed in HTTPS. And what's the difference between the two? I don't worry about the actual nitty-gritty of the implementation, but I need to be aware that one is where my website is not secured and another is mandatory if I am going to accept payments through my website. Of course, there are various protocols, and the SSL TLS are the SSL has become the TLS protocol more or less. And then, of course, digital signature. We are all working from home, and many of us have used DocuSign. I use DocuSign to sign various important contracts for my books or for my work and so on. And we need to be aware of, as business analysts, what is encryption, what is digital signature. Um, in my university, there's just a plug for my university. We are going so big with cybersecurity. We have got three research-based, that is tenure track positions for professors in my university. This is just to highlight to you how big and how important cybersecurity is in today's world. I do a lot of writing. I have written these two fairly substantial executive reports on business analysis. Part one on needs and exploration of requirements, and part two was on organizational adoption. And organizational adoption is a fairly interesting and challenging aspect of business analysis. Um, Finally, I have developed a strategy cube for business analysis, so you can look at opportunities using data externally to grow the market, for example, or internally to optimize the processes you have, for example, inventory, risk and compliance, in order to make sure that your business is compliant with all the requirements of the government at various levels or industry bodies. And then finally, environment and social responsibility. Data can again help quite a bit. And the spin-off benefit, if I may be allowed to say so, of coronavirus is that people, my friends from Patiala are saying they can see the Himalayas. My friends from Delhi and Chennai and Bangalore are saying carbon has come down and the air is cleaner, and so on. So is there a correlation between data and the human activities and the environment? Absolutely, yes. So that's actually one of my areas of research as well. So opportunities, I will go through this very quickly. I've got 2 minutes left to speak. So, opportunities examples are Amazon, Uber, Airbnb. Uh, Look at how they have used data and communication. Uber is the biggest taxi company in the world without owning a single taxi. And Airbnb is one of the biggest hotel chains in the world without owning a single hotel room. FedEx, XPO are well-known example. XPO is a giant supply chain logistic company which is continuously optimizing its delivery processes. Amazon also is the case. Very simply, in America, right turn on a red light is allowed. I will not talk about India. I drive in India very comfortably, but in America, you can take a right turn on red light. Um, the FedEx and the Amazon delivery truck that leaves in the morning, its path is charted in such a way that there'll be maximum number of right turns so that they can deliver more packages in the given time. This is just an example of analytics being applied in supply chain. And I mentioned about environment and CSR. Risk and compliance, again, totally supported by data. This is a technical machine learning discussion, so I'm going to pass this because I was given the time and I want to stick to the time, and I want to prove that I'm Indian and I know how to manage time. So future directions, BA competencies are required. Cloud is much more than just computing, and BAs need to be aware of cloud. BA and data science are intersecting. Artificial intelligence in specific terms. Um, we cannot think of any future activity without data driven activity, without cybersecurity. So the future is cybersecurity, cyber defense, agriculture, especially in the context of India, GRC, especially compliance, because our businesses, especially small and medium businesses, have a big challenge, and that is to comply with these 300 page or 3000 page government requirements. And technology, data driven technology, can and should help in making the businesses compliant. And of course, my pet topics are education, especially in India, and of course environment, which is my research area. So that's what I have said. I'm very, very thankful for the opportunity. This is my email address. I am also available on LinkedIn. I'm the only Bhuvan Unhelkar on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook also. And there is a website which is still being updated by my dear friend sitting in Vadodara, unhelkar.com. So with that, thank you very much to all the GESIA members. I hope I got that right. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen and come back to the video mode. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Dr. Bhuvan. There is a question which I've sent to you. Uh, this is from the participant. Can you
Yes, sir.
please recommend best possible BA approach or framework which could applied on a potential big data problem state?
So the simple answer is BABOK, Business Analysis Body of Knowledge. The slightly longer approach is it has to be used keeping data in mind. So the framework is there. It is well known, it's well recognized. In fact, there is a subdiscipline called business data analysis right within IIBA. I'll be happy to. So I am first of all sharing the slides. I'll send it to our organizers, and all participants and members can have a copy of that PDF. There's no issue there. In which you will find one slide that I had highlighted: business data analysis. It's actually a white paper written and published on IIBA, and you are welcome to have a look at that. And of course, feel free to chat with me. But uh, once again, BA approach of framework is BABOK, and a potential big data problem statement. Uh, if it is genuinely big data, then of course it has to keep in mind the various things I put in this presentation, like think data, in which I have said handset, because if it's a big data solution, you probably are dealing with IoT or streaming data. Then you have think data, that is cloud solution, think tools and techniques, and think mindset. And I am available. Feel free offline to connect with me, and we can have a chat.
Thank you. Anupamji, do we have more questions?
Yeah, one question which has come is that you mentioned uh, that the BA has application research for education. So in context to education, that currently India is very much moving towards online education. How does it help for education?
Okay, so here is another plug for me. I am a co-founder of a company in Bangalore called Platify, Platifi, platify.com. And what we have done is created a platform to provide near lab-like experience to students. Now, why should I mention that? Because in education, and by the way, education is my pet topic, so you can chat with me a lot more about it. But what is the challenge right now? First and foremost challenge in India is scalability. We have got very, very fertile brains, but 70% of our population lives in villages even now. And the challenge is, how do we reach there? How do we scale up? And technology has to play a role in scaling up. And one of the best ways to scale up is through the 4G now, or 5G as it is coming, to provide that connectivity to our villages. Secondly, acceptability of online education through this corona pandemic is now more. I am in close contact with owners and presidents of schools in India, especially in Ghaziabad and down south in Bangalore. And they are saying they are having challenges, and we chat almost on a weekly basis. And the challenges are, scalability, as I mentioned, security, as I mentioned, but the advantage is um, parents, students, and teachers have now come to accept that quality education can be delivered online. Third is evaluation and grading. Now, the new education policy of India, which is fascinating, although I have to disagree with, I should say it is not sufficient for what I would have liked it to be. But how do we say, okay, the new education policy is saying that education must be delivered competency based with multiple exit points. Now, a competency is quite different to how most of us, people in their 50s and 40s and 50s and 60s were educated. I am a student of Shreyas School in Vadodara, and there are 40 students and they are ranked from number 1 to number 40, and the number 1 is the best student and number 40 is the most useless, according to that grading system, which is completely wrong and which is competition based. But competency based education system requires a different kind of evaluation. So data is involved in all of that. Where do I go? What kind of students I have? What kind of courses I can provide to them? How am I going to deliver it? And finally, how am I going to say that a student is competent? So I need data, and I'm now talking about primary and secondary school education. When it comes to university education, things like Platify, there could be other platforms. I know so many students in very good institutes, including BITS and IITs, who have a shortage of resources for what they want to do. If someone is doing a CAD CAM analysis or CAD CAM design, the tool is resource intensive, and providing that tool to 40 students when each tool's license is $30,000-$40,000 is a very challenging thing. And sometimes, well, most of the time, the tool may not be used. So can I use 5 licenses instead of 40 licenses and do what I call smart analytics to provide a near comfortable experience for my higher degree students? And finally, when it comes to research and PhD, it's data, data, data all the time.
So there are a couple of more questions. Anupamji, may I refer those? If you are reading it, that's great. But if I may, one
There
is,
is one.
yeah, go
Is
ahead.
that the one in reference to cybersecurity?
Well, there is one which is, and there are several questions actually. There are a whole list of questions I'm saying.
Please, sir, go ahead. I'm happy.
So
We can do quick answers, and
right,
then
so there is one question which says that does this mean that data analyst and business analyst, the roles are combining and becoming one now? Is that correct?
Yes, they are overlapping. But
Okay.
let me caution us all that analysis and analytics are actually two different words. Analytics includes things like what I have got sitting on my desk right now,
Right.
Analyzing the data and providing, supervised learning, unsupervised learning, so machine learning.
Right.
Whereas analysis deals with interviewing techniques,
Got it.
stakeholder management, communication of ideas and results. So
Yes.
it is primarily a soft skill driven profession. Business
Right.
analysis, data analytics is a hard skill driven profession, and the two are overlapping now.
Okay. Very interesting. And I think that's a very interesting difference, which I think several times it is confused between analysis and analytics. I think, thank you so much for clarifying that. Another question is what should be the right approach or correct approach for a BA to work out on the requirements and what should exactly be delivered to them so that there is no gap between original scope and final scope. I think this is where a lot of times, there are a lot of confusions in terms of the scope versus expectations and how it evolves over the period of time. And how do you see that is getting managed, and how do you do that?
So one of the key words here is iteration.
Right.
At times in the past, when I am a programmer, I'm a COBOL programmer, and I did my first COBOL program in 1982 in Telco in Pune, which is now Tata Motors.
Right.
And we used to straight do programming and compile, link, build, and show the report to the user. The user will come to us every second day, and we will sit together on the Burroughs green screen or the IBM screens. We then moved to so much of planning that with some IBM projects, they ran for 3 years, 4 years. And the requirements that were documented 3 years ago were no longer valid when the solution was developed. Today, we live in a world where a iteration of 3 months is too much. If I have to develop a smart app, and I do a lot of work in developing mobile app using progressive web applications and a few other tools, the iteration time is 2 weeks. So the short answer to the question that is asked is to make sure that you don't go beyond 2 weeks to develop a small part of the solution and engage the user who is going to use the solution in an iterative incremental manner and get their
Right.
feedback.
Right. Very interesting. Thank you. Another very interesting question, if I may ask, is there are two types of business analysts which are typically seen in any IT organization. One is pre-sales and second is post-sales. Number one, Professor Unhelkar, do you agree with this? And if so, do you see any difference between the two roles? And how do you see the difference between the two?
Well, actually, every role in an organization has a sales component to it. And we are all from Gujarat. We know that, Gujarat is probably one of the best states in India who capitalizes on the ability to sell. But when it comes to, so I'm giving a rough answer here, that pre-sales deals with business problems directly. Pre-sales has less understanding, less need to understand technology and security and data and all the things that I mentioned. It is really, what is the business problem? My business is losing customers. My business is producing more defective products, or my business cannot collaborate with other businesses. This is the challenge. This is your pre-sales. When it
Great.
comes to post sales, it is going to be those performance indicators, those parameters, those metrics that the pre-sales role had agreed upon.
Correct.
So that's the short answer.
Right. Thank you so much. That's another very interesting question, and of course, a great clarity on that now. One very interesting question which has come up is, these days we see roles which are more like customer success manager, and to an extent there is an overlap between customer success manager and business analysis. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Because when I say value add, what is value add? I'm trying to add value to a customer's requirements. If I am a customer service officer, well, customer service officer and customer service manager are the terms we are using for a branch manager in a bank, or even a okay, now flights are less, but someone who is checking me into a flight is a customer service officer.
Right.
Now, we are, as business analysts, we are not necessarily performing those roles, but those roles have some of these competencies that I highlighted, like ability to communicate, like ability to interview or to ask question, what is your problem? Why are you stuck here? How can I help you? Or proactively offer. See, data changes some aspects of these customer service performance or behavior. For example, I stand in front of a teller in a branch in a bank,
Sure.
and the teller says that, sir, do you want another $10,000 for a used car loan? And I'm wondering, how did the teller know? But the entire data analytics based on my profile says, migrant Indian living in America for 20 years is most likely going to need second or even third car. So that is the overlap between CSO and business analysis.
Professor Unhelkar and all my friends, you will be very happy to know that a lot of participants are from outside Gujarat as well. So we are having pan-India representation here. We have several participants from Mumbai, from Pune, from Bangalore, from New Delhi. I have few participants all the way from Guwahati. So, and a lot of questions have come in. So it looks like at some stage, Professor Unhelkar, with your kind permission and with your taking your time and convenience again, we possibly will actually have to organize another Q&A session just for that, it seems like, because I have a huge list of questions in front of me.
It will be my pleasure. And to all my friends in India, from all around, and I have been to these places and so on. So
right.
Yes.
So thank you so much, and I hand over to for the paucity of time, and I know that we have a number of questions that we have, but we have kind of been restricted by the time, and we will certainly come back on furthermore, opportunity for us to discuss and have another one-to-one or interactive session with Professor Unhelkar. With that, I'll hand over to Anupamji. Anupamji, if you have any further questions or if there is something that you want to talk, and then you may want to proceed towards the, thanks note.
I think we can have a separate Q&A because a long list of questions are always there, because this is a very, very interesting topic, and it ranges from from strategies to cyber security,
Exactly,
to data management and various things. And I would also say that this is not it's a small, you would say big data, but I would say a big picture. So it's a big picture with connected with the big data. So
Well said.
the Q&A session, I think you need to have a separate one for shortage of time. So I would like to thank on behalf of GESIA and our chairman and our board to you for taking this time out and giving us this valuable insight in the data-driven analysis and the approach that how business analysis is a new word, a new word of strategy that I would also say that with your input that it is also opening up a lot of areas for software application development, because business analysis will definitely apply to application development, not only to corporates, but government sectors, defense that you mentioned. And we will be continuously taking your inputs and support for that. Thank you very much, sir, and thank you, Moritji.
Thanks to you. Thanks for inviting. Namaste to all my friends all over India. And I look forward to meeting you all again. And please connect with me on LinkedIn if you feel like.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
sir. Namaste.
Namaste.
Yes, sir. Namaste.
Have a wonderful day and weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
So shall I stop our live streaming, sir?
Yeah.